leader of the People's Power Party and a former member of parliament. Yuri, thank you so much indeed for your time. While you talk to us, Vladimir Putin is talking to his army chiefs. Presumably, people in Russia are also listening. He's being very upbeat. He admits he has, as we've discussed, that things are difficult, but he's talking about the nuclear forces. He's also said, according to Reuters, and I'm not sure exactly how to translate this in English, but he says interballistic missiles, the Sarmats, will be deployed for combat duty in the nearest future. These are threats to Ukraine.
Well, Ukraine has been invaded in 2014, and then once again in a full-scale invasion this year. And all the threats against Ukraine have been carried out basically already. If you're talking about nuclear threats, it's very, very unlikely that Russia will engage in nuclear warfare. Most analysts agree in this for the simple reason that this will assure mutual destruction for both Russia and whoever it engages. So I do not think that they will engage in nuclear warfare. I think they will attempt to take control of Ukraine by conventional forces, as they have been doing over the past 300 days already. Yesterday were 300 days since the beginning of their full-scale invasion, but they're obviously not able to do it. And they're not able to do it due to the heroic resistance of Ukrainian armed forces and Ukrainian people as a whole. Furthermore, were we to receive the relevant supplies, relevant armament and help that we were asking for since March, April, and were we to receive it quickly enough from our Western allies, then we would have already beaten Russian invaders back to at least the demarcation line of the 24th of February, perhaps maybe even to our borders of 1991. Unfortunately, even though we are getting quite a lot of help, this help is coming in very small numbers, and it's coming belatedly. I mean, look at, for example, the situation with the Patriot missiles. So Russia has started bombarding Ukrainian cities with its rockets in February, March. But we're only getting, perhaps getting Patriot missiles in December. I mean, this is just ridiculous, to be honest. Yeah. As for our energy infrastructure, well, our energy infrastructure was bombarded since September this year. And once again, only now we're talking about a Patriot air defense. Whenever I hear the talk of from both Russian dictators, officials, and from many Western analysts, that they're afraid of escalation and so on, that if Ukraine is getting weapons, then there's going to be further escalation. This is simply not correct, because the way to de-escalate, the way for this war to stop, is for Ukraine to take the invaders out of Ukraine, to beat Russia. And the way for Ukraine to beat Russia is to get more help. So the formula here is escalate to de-escalate. If you give us as much as we are asking and as quickly as we are asking, then we will be able to end this war far quicker. If you give us all of this in small portions, very slowly, then of course this war will continue for a longer time.
Yeah, Yuri, you've laid out so many of the current issues so well. But that issue of escalate to de-escalate, the Americans don't seem to be listening. There are no indications from anybody who has contact with the White House that Joe Biden, in the next few hours, when he shakes hands with your president, is going to give Volodymyr Zelensky everything he wants in terms of those absolutely latest weapons and the ones that travel furthest to be able to defend Ukraine. Because, as you say, there is a concern in the West. How does Kiev and how does your president reassure Western nations we will not attack Russian territory? We will use this to defend ourselves.
Well, there's two things here. Well, first of all, I mean, the U.S. administration and a number of Western politicians have actually recently stated that they feel that that Russian targets within Russia, which are used to hit Ukraine, are legitimate targets for the Ukrainian military. So they have changed their stance in this respect. If you compare it to what they were saying half a year ago, they are allowing for this to happen. And when there were when we struck their, for example, the airfield of their strategic bombers deep inside Russian territory, there was no condemnation from the West, and it's obviously why would they condemn it if this airfield is used to bombard our civilian infrastructure? So that's number one. Number two, I mean, even if this was the main problem, I mean, there's ways to control the ways weapons are used. I mean, if you're talking about the weapons which were supplied by the West, they were not used so far to attack Russian territory, even though they can easily be used. I mean, for example, the HIMARS system, it has a range of 70 kilometers roughly, and we control our northern border. So if we wanted to do it, we could easily use the HIMARS system to attack Russian territory. But this was never done because there's a relevant agreement with the US and our other allies. So these sort of agreements could have been reached regarding all other weapons. For example, what is really important for us is the ATACMS ATACMS long-range rocket, which can be used on the HIMARS system, but which will have a range of far greater than 70 kilometers. And we would be able to use these rockets to take care of Russian supply lines in occupied Ukrainian territory, in the Crimea, around our southern Azov Sea coast, and so on. So there's lots and lots and lots, unfortunately, lots and lots of targets that can be used and which have to be taken care of by long-range weapons, which we are not receiving from the US. And these targets are in occupied Ukraine, not in Russia. I really don't accept this explanation. I think the main reason is that there's two main reasons why we are still not getting the weapons that we're asking for. And by the way, this is not Zelensky, this is the Ukrainian people which are asking for these weapons. There are two main reasons why we're still not getting them as quickly as possible and as much as possible as we need them. It's number one, it's a question of this sort of inertia in believing that Russia has a good military and that Russia can somehow retaliate, which is really, it's just ridiculous. I mean, what's Russia going to do? Russia was stopped by Ukraine, its huge army. Most of its, half of its professional army has been destroyed in Ukraine. Where is it going to retaliate? Who is it going to strike? I mean, this is just outdated thinking from a year ago. It has no grounding in reality today. So that's number one. And number two is simply a matter of economies, a matter of funds. Western powers are reluctant to fully engage their budgets, fully engage their money, government spending in supplying us the relevant weapons.
Yeah, you know, Yuri,
problem.
It may have been a bit of the case a few months ago, and forgive me for not remembering who exactly, but it was either the leader of Latvia or Estonia who stood up and said, you know what, for us it's only money, for the Ukrainians it's about their lives. Yuri, thank you so much indeed for your time. Really, really appreciate it. Stay safe. Yuri Levchenko.
Thank you.
Okay.